Picture this. You're at home, laptop box sitting on the kitchen counter. You just spent $3,200 on the sleekest MacBook Pro, space gray, 16-inch, M2 Max. The aluminum glints in the morning light. You peel off the plastic and run your fingers across the smooth chassis, hearing that soft click as the lid shuts. Satisfaction hits. Then you notice something. Your old MagSafe charger doesn't match. Not a huge deal, but you're thinking, it's only $69, and it'll complete the setup. Done. Next, that leather sleeve on Etsy, $120, but it screams elegance. And why not AirPods Pro? They're $249, but they feel like the only way to actually use your new laptop. 48 hours later, you're staring at your credit card statement. $3, $200, then $3, $638, then $3,900. You didn't plan to spend this much. You just did. And here's the thing, it wasn't the laptop. Not really. You just walked straight into a psychological trap that's older than capitalism itself. A trap named the Diderot Effect. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about why we buy things we don't need. Seriously. Some people call it retail therapy. I call it a psychological maze with dollar signs on the walls. You've probably been told, buying nice stuff is harmless, or treat yourself once in a while. And it is, until one purchase quietly drags 5, 10, maybe 20 more purchases behind it. That $3,200 laptop? It's not just a laptop. It's a trigger, a magnet, a small stone that starts an avalanche through your bank account. If you want to stop that avalanche before it crushes your financial goals, smash that like button and stick around. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how a single French robe in 1765 sparked the same exact spending spiral, and how that ancient lesson is haunting your modern wallet. By the end of this video, you'll know why buying just one thing can feel like freedom, and why it's secretly anything but. Let's rewind to 1765, Paris. Picture Denis Diderot, a French philosopher, sitting in his modest study surrounded by dog-eared manuscripts and the faint smell of ink. Diderot wasn't rich, but he was respected in intellectual circles. He wrote essays, debated ideas, and curated a library that would make any scholar envious. Life was simple, functional, and, by his own admission, enjoyable. Then came Catherine the Great of Russia. She admired his writings and sent him a generous gift, roughly $50,000. That's today's equivalent of over $1 million, a fortune. And what did Diderot do first with this unexpected windfall? He bought a scarlet dressing gown, the finest silk, lavish, luxurious, almost regal in its brightness. He slipped it on, and suddenly, life felt different. He wasn't just a scholar anymore. He was Diderot in red silk. But then everything changed. That old wooden desk, once sturdy and respectable, suddenly felt shabby. The rug underfoot? Too plain. The curtains? Out of place. The chair? Pedestrian. Each item whispered, "You don't belong here. You've upgraded, but your room hasn't." So, step by step, Diderot replaced everything. He bought a new desk to match the gown, a new rug to complement the desk, fresh curtains, a stately chair, paintings, sculptures, mirrors, the works. Every purchase seemed rational in isolation. The rug matches, the chair fits the aesthetic, the mirrors enhance the space. But together, they formed a spending spiral that would leave him broke again. Diderot later wrote an essay titled "Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown," capturing the moment he realized what had happened. He said, "I was the absolute master of my old dressing gown, but I have become a slave to my new one." Think about that. One luxury item, meant to bring pleasure, became a leash. It created psychological tension. Each old item in the room now clashed with his new identity, forcing him to keep spending just to feel coherent, just to maintain the story he wanted to tell himself. I am the person who owns a scarlet gown, not a modest scholar. This phenomenon has a name today, the Diderot Effect. It's the psychological tendency for one new possession to trigger a cascade of additional purchases. And the core principle is simple, but powerful. Humans crave identity consistency. When you acquire something that upgrades your perceived status, every other possession suddenly feels inadequate. The tension is unbearable until you align your environment, or your wallet, accordingly. Diderot's story is extreme, yes, but it's the blueprint for almost every modern spending spiral. Think of it like a chain reaction in chemistry. One molecule absorbs energy, excites the next, which excites the next, until the whole system is ignited. Except in this case, the energy is desire, and the combustion is your bank account. The cascade is insidious because each purchase feels justified. The new desk? It matches the robe. The rug? It completes the desk. The chair? It supports the aesthetic. Each decision seems rational, even responsible, until the spiral ends in debt or regret. Diderot, once a content scholar, became enslaved to an object that was meant to liberate him. Fast forward 250 years, and the stage is different, but the script hasn't changed. Instead of a scarlet dressing gown, you have a MacBook Pro, an Apple Watch, a Peloton bike, or a high-end kitchen appliance. The objects are modern, the price tag's larger, but the psychological mechanism is identical. One anchor item sets a new identity baseline, and everything else becomes inadequate until you upgrade, match, or replace it. Diderot's haunting lesson is twofold. First, we underestimate the hidden cost of an upgrade, and second, status-based purchases rarely stop at a single item. The pleasure of the new object is temporary. The psychological pressure to maintain coherence is enduring. That's why he didn't just regret the cost of the gown. He regretted the invisible chains it created, the anxiety, the exhaustion, and the debt. This story also teaches something subtle about human behavior. We are not always rational agents in a market. We are storytellers. We build narratives about who we are, and our possessions are characters in those narratives. When one character suddenly rises in status, all the supporting cast, your other belongings, must rise too. Otherwise, the story doesn't make sense. And when the story doesn't make sense, the discomfort pushes you to act, to buy, to restore narrative coherence. By understanding Diderot's experience, you start to see a pattern in your own life. That harmless, new purchase might be the first domino. The historical origin shows the deep psychological roots of unnecessary spending, long before Instagram ads and limited edition sneakers existed. And it's not just history, it's a lens to view every modern upgrade through. You might be thinking, sure, that was 1765. How does a French robe matter when I'm buying an Apple laptop in 2026? Here's the thing, it matters more today than ever. The chain reaction is turbocharged by e-commerce, social media, and endless marketing. One shiny Peloton bike isn't just a fitness tool, it's a signal. One MacBook Pro isn't just a computer, it's an identity upgrade. And just like Diderot, suddenly your old gear, your apartment furniture, even your wardrobe feels inadequate. Take a $3,200 laptop, for example. You buy a $69 MagSafe charger, a $120 leather sleeve, $249 AirPods Pro. 48 hours later, you've spent nearly $4,000, and you're already eyeing a new desk to match the aesthetic. The Diderot effect isn't subtle. It's sneaky, silent, and terrifyingly effective. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. So why does this happen? The answer lies in identity and consistency. Psychologists call it the coherence trap. When you acquire an anchor item, a high-status purchase, it upgrades your self-image. Suddenly, everything else that doesn't match that image feels wrong, cheap, or embarrassing. Imagine two people, a Honda Civic person and a Porsche person. If the Porsche person buys a new steering wheel cover, suddenly the seats, the floor mats, even the garage feel incompatible. The tension is psychological. Your brain craves consistency between your possessions and your identity. The Diderot effect works like a pressure system. That single laptop, that Peloton, that scarlet robe, they raise your baseline. Everything below it now triggers discomfort. And to relieve that discomfort, you spend more. New desk, new chair, new rug, new home office setup, because your story about who you are demands coherence. Essentially, it's not just spending. It's spending to maintain the story you're telling yourself about yourself. And that's why one purchase rarely stays alone. Let's break down the real cost of the Diderot effect, because seeing the numbers makes it undeniable. You start with a $3,200 MacBook Pro. That's the planned purchase, the one you felt justified in buying. But then the chain reaction begins. $69 for the MagSafe charger, $120 for a leather sleeve, $249 for AirPods Pro. Already, you're at $3,638. But your desk looks outdated, right? So add a $450 standing desk. Your chair feels off, $300 for a new ergonomic model. You notice your old rug doesn't match, $200. New curtains, $150. Decorative touches, cable management, lighting. Suddenly the total jumps to over $4,800, and all within a week. Now imagine a bigger anchor item, like a $10,000 kitchen renovation. One upgrade can spiral into $35,000 after cabinets, appliances, flooring, and furniture all demand matching. Here's the revelation. The initial purchase didn't satisfy you. It created dissatisfaction. Every follow-up purchase isn't luxury. It's a psychological bandage trying to patch an identity misalignment. Here's the counterintuitive insight. Upgrades are often downgrades in disguise. You buy the fancy robe, the high-end laptop, or the sleek new kitchen, expecting joy and freedom. But what actually happens? You gain stress, anxiety, and a set of invisible obligations. Every other item in your environment now feels wrong, and you're compelled to upgrade it, too. Before the upgrade, you were the master of your possessions. You could relax in your old robe, sit at your old desk, and enjoy life without thinking about coherence. After the upgrade, you've become the curator of a museum, not the resident of a home. You manage objects instead of enjoying them. And that's the paradox. What should have been liberation, luxury, status, freedom, becomes restriction. It's why Diderot wrote that haunting line. I have become a slave to my new robe. Every modern must-have purchase carries this hidden tax. It's the psychological cost that never appears on a receipt, but it can silently eat your time, energy, and financial freedom. So, how do you defend yourself against the Diderot effect? Here's my 3-step strategy. Simple, practical, and surprisingly effective. Strategy number 1, predictive planning. Why? The spiral starts because you only see the cost of one item. How? Before buying anything expensive, ask, if I buy this, what else will I feel compelled to replace? Write it down, budget it out. Benefit. You see the hidden dominoes in advance. That $3,200 laptop? Maybe it triggers $4,800 of spending, but at least you knew the potential total before hitting buy. Strategy number 2, the buy one, give one rule. Why? The Diderot effect thrives on accumulation. How? For every new item you bring in, remove one old item. Sell it, donate it, or recycle it. Benefit. You maintain control, prevent clutter, and limit identity tension. The robe doesn't demand a new chair if the old chair is gone. Strategy number 3, strategic downgrading. Why? Smaller anchor items create less tension. How? Choose upgrades that satisfy your identity without raising your baseline too high. A $1,500 laptop might be enough instead of a $3,200 one. A modest desk can coexist with a new laptop. Benefit. You get the joy of upgrading without triggering the chain reaction. You stay master of your environment, not a curator. These strategies work because they interrupt the psychological momentum before it spirals out of control. You're no longer a passive participant. You're designing the story of your possessions intentionally. There's nothing wrong with upgrading. Luxury isn't evil. Treating yourself isn't a sin. But the truth is, most of us aren't just buying items. We're buying identity, validation, and coherence. And without awareness, those purchases silently enslave us. Diderot's scarlet robe wasn't the problem. The problem was the story it demanded him to live out. He wanted elegance, but he ended up in debt and stress. Today, your MacBook, Peloton, or a fancy kitchen can do the same thing if you don't recognize the underlying psychology. The real lesson: possessions are powerful mirrors, not magic. They reflect your identity, but they can also shape it, whether you like it or not. By predicting the chain reaction, limiting accumulation, and strategically choosing upgrades, you reclaim control. You become the author of your story instead of a slave to your objects. Remember Diderot when you see that must-have item. Freedom isn't found in consumption. It's in conscious choice, deliberate narrative, and psychological awareness. Upgrades can feel like joy, but sometimes they're just downgrades in disguise. If you want to see how lifestyle inflation quietly drains your bank account, check out our next video. It's the perfect follow-up. Subscribe for financial sanity, not just saving tips. And here's your one-line mic drop. Don't buy the robe.